Hi, you're listening to the Professional Speaks podcast with me, Craig McKellar, your host. As an ex-Big Four auditor for 6 years, I now run a specialist recruitment consultancy called McKellar Consulting. Throughout this podcast, I speak to senior leaders from the professional services community, past, present and future. These leaders work in accounting and finance, audit, tax, corporate finance, consulting, legal and investments. In the comfort of their own office, I will be posing questions to our guests to gain insights from them across a variety of topics, including balancing work and life, mental health and mindset, risk-taking, and effective leadership. These insights will help us learn, be inspired, grow, and ultimately succeed in what we want to achieve in our careers. Here's what's coming up on today's episode.
And the value add isn't necessarily in the conversation about the topic.
No.
Okay, the value adds in the 5 minutes before the meeting starts, where you're getting the coffee and you're going, how was the holiday? And then at the end, is there anything else? What else is keeping you up at night? Those kind of discussions that you just don't have in a video, because you deal with it and it's okay, thanks, I think that's everything, and you click the leave button. It's just those human interactions that haven't happened. And we've probably had a whole, it's not quite a generation yet, but anybody that came into the profession probably 2018, 2019, that was quite junior and didn't do a lot of client meetings, and then as they would generally have been doing more and more, went straight into that Teams piece, and the younger ones coming out after that have never had the experience of going out and seeing a party. And that can be difficult if you're not used to it. It's a different type of pressure.
In this episode, I'm joined by Stuart Brodie, who is a tax partner at Claritas Tax, which is the UK's largest independent tax advisory firm, and he leads the Glasgow office, which opened at the beginning of 2024. Topics discussed include how best to have a balanced team when focusing on strengths, and his unusual hobby outside of work. So Stuart, thanks for coming on the podcast. You're guest one of season 2.
Excellent. Difficult second album.
Hopefully we'll have a good amount of people listening and viewing. But just to introduce yourself, you are currently tax partner at Claritas Tax, which is the UK's largest independent tax advisory firm, and they just opened up in Glasgow earlier this year. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So Stuart Brodie, I'm heading up the new Glasgow office, so we opened that up at the start of January, which is really exciting. Yeah. I've worked through my previous role with Claritas for the last few years. Great firm, mostly based in Manchester and Birmingham, but on that expansion path now. So we opened an office on the 2nd of January in Bristol, and then the 3rd of January in Glasgow. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, busy start to the year. And
could have probably done with taking a month off, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was one of those things.
Yeah, no, great. And just kind of tell us a bit more about yourself, kind of who are you other than Stuart Brodie, what's it?
Okay, so backgrounds, obviously come from Glasgow, always lived in Glasgow, spent little bits of my career away from there, but frankly, this is what I know and love. Grew up in Newton Mearns, did all the normal things, big passion actually at that point, and still was the Boys Brigade, where most of my friends there and still have them from 20, 30 plus years ago now. So yeah, that's kind of the background to me. Very much a Glasgow boy.
Yeah, great. And I mean, I know you've obviously travelled outside of Glasgow. We'll come on to all that later, obviously. Yeah. But also going into your job, so what tax is it that you currently specialise in, and kind of, if you maybe just tell us a bit about your career as well.
So my specialism is VAT, which is the sexy tax, frankly. Yeah. It's the one everybody wants to talk about. Yeah. And I've done VAT basically the entirety of my career. So going back to university, studied law, because at the end of the day, all of this was a bit of a mistake.
Right.
Didn't ever intend to be working in, obviously, the accountancy sector. So studied law, did my diploma, and my real passion was criminal law. That's what I wanted to do. Got to the end of my diploma, and at that point the legal aid rules changed, which basically meant there was no traineeships for people who wanted to do criminal law. So kind of a bit of a loose end, and these are the days, it's not like today. So for the younger viewers here, you used to get the Glasgow Herald on a Tuesday and a Friday, because that's when the job pages were there. You would go through circling jobs and then phoning up to get appointments and things. And I saw one at Deloitte & Touche, as was, for a VAT grad. And I went, okay, looks interesting. It's not what I want to do.
Yep.
But I need a job, and I'll apply for legal traineeships in a year's time. But I need a job in the interim, so I'll go for it. So it was quite competitive. There was a lot of people I knew from university going through the processes, and I was lucky enough to get it. And literally within a fortnight, realised this is what I want to do. And VAT is everything I thought a legal job was going to be. It's not really. We don't do VAT returns generally. It's about the law and the case law. So legislation and case law, and interpreting those and applying them to client situations, which is what I thought, a legal job was going to be. So trained at Deloitte's, became a CTA, and again I'm old enough that actually it was ATII when I passed it. Became CTA about 2-3 years later. So became CTA in 2000, and I stayed at Deloitte till about 2004. Mostly in Glasgow, but a fair bit in London, specialising largely in kind of financial services, VAT side. But if you're in Scotland, frankly, you've got to do everything.
Yep.
And got to the point at Deloitte that I could see things that were really good and things that I didn't like. And Grant Thornton came along. And the beauty of Grant Thornton, at that point, 5th biggest firm in the UK, so big VAT team as well, but nothing at all in Scotland. So it was this nice greenfield site that I could basically, make my own, do all the things that I wanted to do with a VAT practice, most of which I discovered fairly quickly were just nonsense. So there's a reason Deloitte did some of the things the way they did them. But that was great fun. So I joined there July 2004, came through to partner 2011, and finally left at the tail end of 2019, just before COVID kicked.
Yeah. And you went into industry for a short period, is that right? And then
yes, that was I'm going to say a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. I was recruited into a VAT consultancy role, a firm called Markel. Markel, you probably never heard of them, but they're a Fortune 500 insurance group based out of Virginia, in the States. Absolutely fantastic business, brilliant business, but they're in niche areas. And one of their niche areas was something called Markel Tax, which sold insurance to accountants. That was a core product, but they also did tax consultancy services as well, which is what they recruited me to do. We, as a business, Markel decided probably about 6 months into me being there that they didn't want the tax consultancy business anymore. So I went through a redundancy process, which was not what I was hoping for, but ended up becoming the director of Markel Tax, basically running that insurance business for 3.5 years. Just loved it.
Yeah, just a couple of things stand out to me. So you moved to Grant Thornton because there was nothing that you could build something from nothing. Sounds a bit like the same with Markel, and then obviously Claritas have just opened up in January this year.
I never thought of that.
There's something about that's that's been your reason to move.
I like to be in the position that I can mould what the future looks like. So I think that's been part of that journey. I'm not a massive fan of being micromanaged or people telling you've got to do it this way. And I've been really, really lucky through my career that I haven't had that. Even at Markel, it's a Fortune 500 company, given quite a lot of freedom to build that business. And it was I will say this because people haven't really heard of them, and in the areas that they operate, Markel is a fantastic business and does things the way that I would want to do it. It's a very ethical business, so it does the right thing by its clients. So I'm, very proud to have worked there for a period. And frankly, I would have loved to have stayed there, other than the fact I was running a team, 3/4 of which were in rugby, and the other, 25% were in Sheffield. So I was travelling every week down to rugby in Sheffield, which frankly is just not sustainable after a period. So I've mentioned that we got rid of the tax consultancy business. At that point, we still had lots of tax consultancy leads coming through, so we needed to put them somewhere, which is when I kind of developed a relationship with Claritas, which fortuitously it's kind of worked out.
Yeah.
And now I'm here.
Yeah, no, great. And I mean, making those moves as well, did you ever see any of those moves as kind of high risk, or was the risk worth it in your eyes? Because not everybody would make a move from an established firm to a firm they hadn't heard of, or to a company where, I guess, like Claritas here, it's maybe seen as a bit like a startup to some people, in the sense that there's only a few individuals, and that might be in the same case with the others. Is there anything that you saw as being high risk, or were you quite comfortable?
I'd say Claritas is probably the lowest risk of all the moves. And I did mention when I went to Grant Thornton, there was that safety net of a big VAT team being there. But even so, it was a fraction of the size of the Deloitte's one, and they were going into a very different environment. Markel, I didn't really see as a risk. But Claritas is one of those, having worked with them for a couple of years, you really got to know the ethos and the people that were involved in it. So it's almost like, yes, this is a natural place to go, not this is a really risky thing to do. Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And on VAT, unless you work in VAT, you probably don't think of it that much in terms of how it impacts people's, I guess, cost of living and lives. And obviously it's been one topic in the recent election, with whether parties are going to add it on to school fees, or if they're going to bring it down for businesses. And obviously hospitality sector as one sector can benefit hugely if that comes right down. Have you got any, stories or any examples that you're willing to share where your advice has had a big impact on a company?
Yeah, it's so I've worked with some of the biggest companies in the world providing VAT advice, and some really small businesses and charities. The ones where you really feel the impact are generally the smaller businesses that you get involved with. I was thinking about this before we came in, and I haven't thought about this for years, but I actually got a bunch of flowers from a client once for helping him with a VAT reclaim. Now, he was actually quite a big burly car dealer from Paisley, so I'm not sure why he sent me a bunch of flowers, but it was it was just showing the impact that made to him. That we were doing the similar piece of work with a whole pile of businesses, some massive ones, and they got back lots and lots of money. They were obviously happy, but you could really feel the joy where you've got a sole trader who all of a sudden's got a couple £100,000 that they weren't expecting.
Huge difference.
It's just a massive difference to their lives. So that was really nice. And equally on the charity side, where you can get in, solve a problem. Had one recently that's just come back to me because they couldn't find the paperwork. Luckily, helped them through that with HMRC. But it was a small charity in Belfast that had a massive problem, and we got that to go away. And that meant the charity could keep trading, keep doing all the things that they wanted to do, because the VAT issue would have put them down. So that kind of thing, it's quite special when you do those, and they're not necessarily the big fees.
Yeah,
the ones where they make a difference to the people you're working with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, do most clients that engage your services kind of they get it in the sense of what work you can do for them, or do you think sometimes not so much at the start? and then it becomes really apparent, like that Paisley car dealer, you probably wouldn't have expected to get so much back.
Yeah, some do. You've got some quite sophisticated clients who understand what they're talking about, especially in the financial services sector. You know, people who really get what the issues are, and you're thinking, why are you using me as well? You know this as well, if not better than I do. So you get some really sophisticated clients that perhaps just want a sounding board. But a lot of people, especially it's VAT, and a lot of accountants. So going back to Clarence, we do a lot of work with smaller firms of accountants. So they don't have the speciality, they've got a client with an issue, so they bring it to us. And neither they nor their clients normally get it at the beginning. They know they've got a problem, they don't know what the solution is, which is lovely. And that's what I really enjoy doing, it's sitting down and working out, okay, we have an issue, can we solve it? And that's kind of the constant, that's the thing I enjoy doing most, is solving what the problem is for the client.
Yeah, I mean, your role is very client facing, and, you know, talking about, I've talked about this in the past as well, you know, just the importance of building relationships with clients. You know, do you see the best ways of doing that is kind of being yourself, being authentic? Yeah,
absolutely, and it's got to be face to face. I mean, I can be quite sarcastic and jokey at times, and part of that's trying to lighten what can be, you know, I've got £200,000 VAT assessment, I don't know what I'm going to do, you know, but let's work through it. You know, you and I have discussed this before, the old people by people. You know, I think that might be a bit trite, but it's true.
You know, it's hard to have conversations like that over video, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Over the phone.
Been fascinating coming back into practice. So came back in, as I say, in January, started to go out and see people again. So seeing some of my old clients, it's 4-5 years since I've been in the market here in Glasgow. Out seeing old clients again, and our old contacts. And I went to see one who, you know, obviously I won't name them, but it was a big whisky company, where they said I was the first tax person to come out and see them since 2019, when I'd gone out to see them. I think this is one of the, you know, the big whisky groups in Scotland. People should be all over them.
And is that,
nobody talking to them.
And was that a surprise to you?
I'm exactly short. I think it's been this whole COVID piece where everything had to be remote, and people have, to an extent, struggled to come back from that. I mean, you'll see it. You're in the office 2-3 days a week rather than the old 5 days a week. There's not the same interactions, and some clients, that's perfect, and they don't want it. I would never want to go back to always being out face to face. I think there's a nice balance, but to build a relationship, you can't do that by video.
Yeah, I know, I agree. I think people that are in jobs that are client facing, who got through COVID, it's not all, but some people obviously lean on that and think, oh, well, I managed to do it without meeting, so let's just keep it like that. But I think what people forget is the value add of meeting people. I mean, would you not see your friends again, your family again, and just have them all on video? No,
well, some of my friends, yeah. I think that's exactly it. And the value add isn't necessarily in the conversation about the topic.
No.
Okay, the value adds in the 5 minutes before the meeting starts, where you're getting a coffee and you're going, how was the holiday? And then at the end, you know, is there anything else? You know, what else is keeping you up at night? Those kind of discussions that you just don't have in a video, because, you know, you deal with it and it's okay, thanks, I think that's everything, and you click the leave button. You know, it's just those human interactions that haven't happened. And we've probably had a whole, it's not quite a generation yet, but anybody that came into the profession probably 2018, 2019, that was quite junior and didn't do a lot of client meetings, and then as they would generally have been doing more and more, went straight into that Teams piece, and the younger ones coming on, you know, after that, have never had the experience of going out and seeing a party. And that can be difficult if you're not used to it. It's a different type of pressure. I mean, it's the old kind of thinking back, 10 years now, but you'd speak to somebody and say, could you phone them and talk them through that and find out they would send them an email because they wouldn't want to pick the phone up because it's more pressured. It's exactly the same type of relationship. I think there's potentially a group of people that just never had that in their career. They've done quite well. Managers now never physically met a client, which is a worry for the future.
Yeah, no.
A great opportunity, frankly, for Claritas.
Yeah. And, when people, so it was one thing, people getting in front of people and chatting and building a relationship and, just having normal conversations like you're saying, and, being on holiday or whatever. Being authentic, should people just be, is it as simple as being authentic, like be yourself with a client, is it, kind of 100%?
I think there's a big part of that. If you are somebody completely different at work to what you are socially and at home, I can't imagine the amount of energy that takes to be that different person and keep that up. For me, you've got to play on the strengths that you've got, and they're different for all of us. You've got your own personality, and you need to, I think, play on that rather than be pigeon-toed into this is what an accountant does or this is what a tax advisor should look and sound like. So I think authentic. I think people see that.
Authenticity, if you're being your true self or not.
Correct.
And then, what I found is people do share more as well.
There's a trust thing. If you think somebody's putting on a persona, are you going to share, as you say, things with them? As if if you feel comfortable with them, and not everybody likes everybody. That's
not everybody gets on with everybody. Yeah,
and you need to be aware of that. Is one of the best audit partners I ever worked with. I won't name him because I'd just embarrass him, but absolutely brilliant audit partner, great guy. One of the biggest clients that I worked with, he became the audit partner, and for some reason the client hated him. Now, that's obviously just a personality clash of some kind because not everybody likes everybody, and he dealt with that in the most mature way I've seen. He didn't get upset by it or anything else. We just arranged for another audit partner to go into the job, which dealt with it. He did the right thing for the firm. It was a great piece of work. But I would, if I'd been asked before, who should we put on this job, it would have been the one that they hated because absolutely top-notch guy. Yeah. So these things happen, and how do you deal with that? So you won't get on with everybody, but hopefully somebody else within the business will.
Yeah, and talking about teams as well, I think you just touched on, I guess, playing somebody's strengths. So it's important to be authentic at work, be who you are outside of work, because that can also help with structuring teams within a business as well. And we've chatted about this before in terms of, focusing on people's strengths, maybe rather than trying to upskill on his weaknesses. It'd be good to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's I've always hated appraisals. I just despise that whole process. But one of the issues that I've seen in various firms, this wasn't a GT thing. In fact, I think GT were dealing with it quite well by the time that I left. Is that you would sit down at your appraisal and you would have this nice balanced scorecard. So you've got operations, okay, how are you managing your portfolio, clients, how are your interactions with them, marketing, how are you out in the market, and people, which is teams and how you're working internally. And you would sit down and you would get feedback in all of those areas. And if you were fantastic at going out to market, really good at building the business and everything else, but your people skills weren't great, all of your objectives and everything else would be about making your people skills better. Making you better at that. There'd be nothing about the market side other than potentially just a one-liner. It'd be all about the weaknesses and building that up, and I get that. But I'm more of rather than having a balanced person, I'd rather have a balanced team. If you've got somebody in the team that's brilliant at going to market, let's have them go to market. And if there's somebody else in the team that's absolutely great at managing people, well let's have them managing the people. Give the team the best experience they possibly can have, rather than somebody that's not good at that getting foisted on them to, make them better. That doesn't help the team. So yeah,
I think we see it a lot in the world, in different things, politics as well as business, where people are promoted into positions because maybe they're being successful at something, and so you tend to think, well, if they're successful, people look up to them and learn from them, but that's not actually true. Like you're saying, a successful person in terms of business might not be good at successfully managing, coaching and developing people.
Yeah, because they're massively different skill sets. So either you've got everybody, you're trying to get everybody up to the same level. The reality of that is you probably drag everybody down to the same level. Or you say, right, you're good at going out to market, right, let's focus on that. Let's get you really out there. Let's take away the things that stop you doing what you're really good at. And that's how you get high-performing teams. When you need the balance across whatever team or business it is.
Yeah.
You don't need it in one person.
Have you seen, whether it's in businesses you've worked in or clients you've worked at, paths that are quite different? So let's say, you can be just a technical director, or you can be a director that has a target of bringing in X revenue.
Partner path.
And one is, managing people, and one is not managing people. Yeah, and I think that can work. I mean, when you get to that kind of senior level, that's very much where you need a big enough team to justify having the technical director role. But I think that's really powerful. When you've got somebody that is a deep sector or a specialism expert, have them in front of a client doing their thing, is amazing if you can get that. And not everybody wants to progress. Yeah.
The old Anderson's model of you get promoted or you get binned. I think I went out with Anderson's, to be honest. But different people have different aspirations for their careers. Not everybody wants to be a partner. It's kind of held out when you start.
Yeah.
That's where you want to get.
Was that a goal of yours?
Yes and no. It was always a goal, because I'm quite competitive that way, but it wasn't a be-all or end-all for me. So, yeah, I would say it was accidental.
No.
It's kind of...
I guess depending on opportunity, and if there's an opportunity there, you're going to want to grab it.
Yes.
Type of thing. It's not like, I need that to be content or anything.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And still not, to be honest. What do I need to be content? That's... we set golf clubs and...
Yeah.
The Burns book.
Yeah, can be a big question. And mentioning Burns, and telling clients about yourself and being authentic, would you like to tell viewers just about your hobby outside of work as well? Because it's the first person I've come across that has this hobby, which I'm quite impressed by.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it's quite a time-specific hobby. So most of it happens January, February, March. But I do a lot of performing in the Burns circuit. And the Burns circuit's far bigger than you would imagine, especially in Scotland.
And if people are, some listeners, I'll just interrupt, sorry, some listeners are in Asia and Australia, so if you just maybe say a bit more about Burns and
So Robert Burns, Scotland's national hero, voted for consistently, and I actually think that's one of the amazing things about Scotland, that our national hero is not a warrior or a king or somebody like that. It's a love poet, and that's what Burns is. Most of his greatest works are writing about the human condition in Scots, which is a separate language to English, but from a common source. And I go to Burns Suppers, which is kind of an annual celebration, and there's lots of them. They don't all happen on the 25th of January. Lots of them through the year, and I perform poems. So I dress the haggis, do Tam O'Shanter, which is my biggie, and do some of the speeches, crack a few jokes.
And if people type your name into YouTube, will they find...
Yeah, they probably will, yeah. Now, I didn't put it down, but if you type in the best Tam O'Shanter in the world, it does come up.
You'll pop up?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's a bit embarrassing that the title wasn't me that put it up. That was filmed at the Royalty Burns Club a year or so ago with the Odd and More, which is just a fantastic venue.
In Glasgow, yeah. And how long have you been doing that?
Probably now, I'll say 15, 20 years. And it's great fun. And I'll do about between a dozen and 16 Burns suppers a year.
Wow, okay, wow. Yeah.
It's a season, it's not a night.
Yeah.
And it's great fun.
And did you know?
I enjoy it.
Did you know somebody? Is that how you got into it?
Yeah, I was just looking. I went to a few Burns suppers each year, enjoyed them, and thought I quite fancy getting a party piece. I saw a guy called David Sybil doing Tam O'Shanter, and I thought that's amazing. I'd love to be able to do it like that. I don't do it like that. I do it completely differently. But it's been good fun. It's got me around the world. So performed in London a few times, New York. One of the best ones was and this was a raffle prize. I did the British China Business Council, or China Britain Business Council Burns supper at the Bute Hall in Glasgow University.
Wow.
Won the raffle at the end, which was 2 return business class flights to Shanghai. So,
fantastic.
Exactly. That's the first time I've come back from a Burns supper, and my good lady Kirstine hasn't been annoyed.
No, great. I'd love to go to Shanghai. I'd love to go to Beijing. So maybe one day. Maybe we need to enter more raffles as well.
So 27 million people in one city is just phenomenal.
Yeah. No, I think travelling a bit more is, since COVID as well, that put some plans to bed. So, hopefully one day get to that side of the world. Just as we're wrapping up the episode as well, I like to ask about the next 12 months in terms of, whether you've got any professional goals or personal goals, or maybe one of each.
Yeah, so I've just finished the Institute's diploma in tax technology. So that was fascinating. Just seeing how AI and everything else is going to affect tax over the next few years. And I'm quite glad I'm at my end of the year. I don't think AI is going to replace tax consultancy because you need that human element and that face-to-face piece. What hopefully it will replace is people just being on videos. I think it's so important that you're out creating those relationships. So from that perspective, it'll be really interesting to see where that goes. More specifically from a professional perspective, our year end at Claritas is the end of August. Good news is we've done our budget in Scotland already.
Great.
So 6 weeks to go. We're through our targets. Next year will be really about growing this business out. We've got Amy Barrows on the private client side now, who's doing great things. My dream is we've probably got a team of 10 within the next 12 months. Start to build that out and be seen in the Scottish marketplace as a preeminent tax advisory firm that's not tied to a firm of accountants.
Yeah.
So we don't have any of those conflicts.
That's a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Great. Well, no, thank you so much for coming on onto the podcast. Like I said, this is the start of season 2, so really appreciate your time.
Start and the end, possibly.
No.
Well, thanks for that.
Thanks, Stuart.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Stuart. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Professional Speaks podcast. This podcast was produced by Springwood Studio Productions. Remember, you can watch the episode recording on our YouTube channel, and if you can, please do subscribe and share with all of your friends. The more people who listen to this, the more guests we can have on to share, so that you can learn, be inspired, grow, and ultimately succeed in what you want to achieve in your career. Please also contact me if you have any feedback on this episode. I'd love to hear from you.